This is Josephine Gibbs reading William Shakespeare's sonnet number 24. Mine eye hath played the painter and hath styled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held, and perspective it is best painter's art. For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Now see what turn good turns eyes for eyes have done. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape and thine for me, a windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. They draw, but what they see, know not the heart. So in Sonnet 24, Shakespeare expressed descriptions in a very visual way, descriptions of the beloved or the muse in incredibly visual, in terms of visual arts even. Now you have to remember that in Elizabethan times, when Shakespeare practiced his art, he was basically inventing new words, inventing new languages, and also to add to the fact that the Elizabethan alphabet only had 24 letters. So he was constrained in that way. He had limitations in this way, so he had to make up his own words to describe much more poetic feeling and expressions. So perhaps he actually even invented about 2,000 words that we take for granted today. So many of the words that we use today are from Shakespeare, especially in this sonnet. Things like shop or glazed windows, these were invented. They were not around. The concepts were not around in Elizabethan times. Windows were only for the very rich. Windows were a luxury, for example, to keep out the draft. Now, in this sonnet 24, I'm going to interpret this in modern language. So, mine eyes have played the painter and have stilled their beauty's form in table of my heart. So I would be saying, I'm like a painter who attempts to paint you beauty, which is seemingly carved it in my heart. So that's his way of saying that. So my body is the frame wherein it is held, and perspective that is best painter's art. So you can translate that as, it is part of me because my body is the frame where your grandeurs can be seen as a window, as his perspective is a device that the best masters use to portray their visionary art. For through the painter must you see his skill, to find where your true image pictured lies. It means only the painter or the old masters can depict your beauty, but even they struggle to see the true extent of how beautiful you are, hanging in the gallery of my bosom. So it's really even incredibly amazing that we're saying, which is in my bosom shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. You can say that its shop windows are glazed through my eyes, see what I only can see, and as a painter drawn your shape as you have for me. So mine eyes have drawn thy shape and thine for me. A windows to my breast, where through the sun delights to peep, to gaze therein on thee. So my eyes are the windows to my being, wherein you shine like the sun, and where I delight to peep in to gaze at you. Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their art. Yet they draw by what they see and know not the heart. So in the last couple of lines, it would mean that yet eyes is cunning want to surpass the old master's art, but they only draw what they can see, but they are blind to the eyes of my heart. So it's a really lovely way of expressing the adoring of the poet towards his beloved, the muse. So he used the strongest literary device, which is imagery here. Puran, the author, uses words and phrases to create mental images for the reader. For example, beauty's form, draw but what they see, drawn thy shape. These are examples of imagery. He uses analogy also, which is a literary device that helps to establish a relationship based on similarities of two concepts and ideas. For example, windows to my breast. He uses quite a bit of repetition as well. It's a literary device that emphasizes something by repeating prepositions, as in to peep, to gaze, therein, on thee. He used litotes. Litotes are figures of rhetoric speech that use an understated statement of an affirmative by using negative description. Okay, as in, they draw, but what they see, they know not the art, or delights to peep, to gaze therein, or now you see what good turns eyes for eyes have done. So quite an understatement. It's affirmative. It's making an affirmative using a negative description. For example, they draw by what they see, know not the heart. So it's incredibly powerful way of using these literary devices. But remember that Shakespeare was the inventor of all some of the words that we use today. It's incredibly very poetic words that probably perhaps sound strange in the ears of his day, but now we just take these for granted. Take away the thine, thou, and all this archaic language in Elizabethan times. We can actually just remember this and actually understand this quite well, and it just brings to mind so many of the imagery that Shakespeare uses. So that's the end of my interpretation and reading of Sonnet 24. I hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for watching.